They thought she didn't belong. In a room filled with sharp suits and polished shoes, whispers turned to laughter the moment she spoke. To them, she was just another face to dismiss, someone unworthy of respect. But what they didn't know was that behind her calm eyes was a decision that would cost them everything. Hours later, the very people who mocked her would be left stunned as she walked out with the kind of power they could never buy. How did a single moment of disrespect turn into a $300 million mistake? For years, Maya had built her reputation, brick by brick. A single mother, she knew the weight of responsibility more than most. While others had safety nets, she had only grit, late nights, and an unshakable belief that her ideas could change the game. Her company wasn't just a business. It was her lifeline, born out of countless sacrifices she made to give her daughter a better future. Now, she stood at the threshold of the biggest opportunity of her career. The boardroom she entered was lined with glass walls and sleek leather chairs, a stage reserved for power players. This wasn't her first pitch, but it was by far the most important. A $300 million deal that could transform everything she had worked for was on the line. Yet, the moment she walked in, she felt it. The smirks, the glances exchanged like inside jokes, the quiet dismissal before she even spoke a word. To them, she was an outsider who had somehow slipped past the velvet ropes of privilege. But Maya wasn't easily shaken. She had faced bigger storms in her life than a room full of doubters. As she adjusted her notes and prepared to speak, she reminded herself, this wasn't just about proving her worth. It was about rewriting the rules. What she didn't know yet was that the very people underestimating her were about to learn the cost of their arrogance. The presentation began, but the atmosphere in the room was already poisoned. Maya laid out her vision with precision, data-driven, bold, and innovative. Her plan wasn't just about profit, it was about transformation, about reshaping an industry that had long resisted change. Yet as her words filled the air, the men seated around the table didn't hear strategy. They heard what they wanted, the voice of someone they believed didn't belong. One of them leaned back, smirking as if he had already decided the outcome. Another whispered to his neighbor, stifling a laugh loud enough for her to notice. The sound was sharp, like a pin pricking her confidence. A third interrupted mid-sentence with a question that wasn't a question at all, but a disguised insult. "Are you sure you've thought this through?" His tone dripped with condescension, his words implying that someone like her couldn't possibly command the scope of what she proposed. Maya kept her composure. Years of being underestimated had trained her well. She pressed forward, refusing to let their derision derail her. But with each slide, each carefully chosen word, she could feel the weight of their disbelief pressing harder. When she paused for feedback, the response was worse than silence. One man chuckled openly, muttering, "Ambitious for a small operation." Another dismissed her projections as too optimistic. Their words weren't just critiques. They were veiled attacks meant to remind her of her place. But Maya didn't rise to their bait. Instead, she studied them. Every sneer, every mocking laugh, every dismissive glance. They were revealing more than they realized. These were men who thought power was permanent, that boardrooms like this belonged only to them. They didn't see her as a businesswoman. They saw her as an intruder in their carefully guarded domain. Still, Maya finished with strength. She thanked them for their time, gathered her materials, and walked out with quiet dignity. What they didn't know was that while they laughed, Maya had been weighing her own decision. The deal on the table wasn't just theirs to accept, it was hers to grant. And soon, they would discover what it truly meant to mock the wrong woman in the wrong room. Hours later, the executives sat in that same boardroom, convinced the deal was theirs. They laughed about it openly now. How ambitious she had been, how entertaining it was to watch her try. To them, Maya was already forgotten, a footnote in their endless parade of failed pitches. But outside those glass walls, another story was unfolding. While they mocked her, Maya had been making calls, powerful ones. The deal they thought they controlled wasn't just an opportunity for her, it was leverage. She had built options, cultivated relationships, and quietly drawn interest from competitors who not only respected her vision, but were eager to back it. When the final meeting resumed, the arrogance in the room was suffocating. One executive leaned forward, smirking as he said, "So, shall we finalize this?" He expected her to nod, to accept whatever scraps they were willing to offer. Instead, Maya placed her folder gently on the table and looked each of them in the eye. Her voice was steady, calm, but it cut through the room like glass. "Gentlemen, this deal is no longer on the table." Confusion rippled across their faces. One laughed, assuming it was a bluff. Another tried to press her, reminding her of the supposed opportunity they were giving. But Maya didn't flinch. With quiet authority, she explained that she had already signed with a rival firm, one willing to invest the full $300 million and treat her with the respect she deserved. The silence that followed was deafening. The smirks vanished, replaced by disbelief. In a single stroke, the balance of power had shifted. What they thought was a show of dominance had become a lesson in humility. As Maya gathered her things and walked out for the last time, their laughter was gone. All that remained was the echo of their arrogance and the realization of what it had cost them. When Maya stepped out of that building, the weight of their laughter no longer clung to her. Instead, there was only the quiet satisfaction of knowing she had turned their scorn into her strength. The $300 million investment wasn't just a deal. It was validation, a door to a future she had fought tirelessly to build. For her daughter, it meant security. For her company, it meant growth. But for the men in that boardroom, it meant loss. Loss of power. Loss of respect. And loss of a chance they had thrown away by underestimating her. News of the deal spread quickly. Industry headlines painted the story in sharp contrast. A woman they dismissed as insignificant had walked away with the power they believed only belonged to them. Their arrogance became their downfall, and Maya's resilience became her triumph. Yet beneath the victory, the lesson cut deeper. This wasn't just about a single boardroom or a single deal. It was about the countless women and people of color who walk into rooms every day and face the same smirks, the same dismissals, the same invisible barriers. Maya's story wasn't unique. It was simply one that ended differently because she had the leverage to say no. Her success raised a question larger than her own journey. How many more voices, ideas, and futures are lost because arrogance and prejudice blind those in power? Maya didn't just walk away with $300 million, she walked away with something far greater. The proof that respect isn't granted by gatekeepers. It's claimed by those who refuse to be silenced. And the question left behind for all of us is this: how many more Mayas will it take before the world finally learns? If Maya's story taught us anything, it's that strength, persistence, and self-belief can turn even the harshest injustice into triumph. Every time someone underestimates you, remember, it's not a measure of your limits, but a reflection of their own. If this story moved you, share it with someone who needs to hear it. And tell us in the comments, how would you have handled being in Maya's shoes? Don't forget to like, subscribe, and hit the notification bell for more stories that inspire, challenge, and reveal the truth behind moments that change lives.